the one that came up that you should not focus on the product, but focus on the need. And he always used the example. So there is an article from the 1920s in Harvard Business School that you can still read today, but he gives the example of how everybody was so focused on improving the train when what the consumer needed was not a better train, but better transportation. So the consumer need was transportation and not the train. Or he uses, there is also the example of you need a hole in the wall, so you can use a drill, but there may be other ways to get that hole in the wall. So it's about the consumer. It's about what the consumer need. And think of that, this is kind of the fundamental, okay? Before you start thinking about what does if my product likes my product or doesn't like my product, what is the fundamental need? Now, it's interesting because in a way, Steve Jobs changed a little bit the way we think. Steve Jobs said the consumer doesn't know what he needs. What the consumer doesn't know what he or she needs. So that's why, because there were products with technology like the iPhone, people were not going, okay, I need a smartphone that does this, that, and it didn't exist. So there is now this whole philosophy that some of the consumers don't know what they need. But on the other hand, it goes back to Theodore Levitt. It's not necessarily that people know that they, before the iPhone existed, that they needed a device like the iPhone, but it's about the consumer need. If there was a device, did this and did that, and you could check email and the internet and apps and all that, again, it's about the need. And back then, well, most of you probably don't remember, but in that era, there were already several smartphones. There was the Nokia phone, and the leading phone was actually the BlackBerry. So when the iPhone was introduced, it really, it didn't take that much market share from the others. It was only available in AT&T. It was very expensive. It was not until they went to the 3G, which was the second one, that really started taking off. And they started taking off because that's when they apps and all that. So we'll come back to the iPhone, but again, I just wanted to mention it, that the whole thing about the consumer rules still is the consumer what's important, but sometimes, because technology moves very quickly, sometimes the consumer doesn't know what they need because they cannot imagine what the technology that is being invented. Okay, so this is since the 1950s, and then a lot of what was developed back then was the whole framework of the 4Ps. So you had professors like Philip Kotler, who came up with a marketing management book, which is a book that is widely used even today. But then in the 1990s, something happened. So this is when I started marketing. What happened in the 1990s is that you started having, by the way, when you see the word consumer is usually the end user. When you see the word customer is the retailer for the most part. So the way to define customer is who is the person paying, okay? So if I'm Procter & Gamble and I sell Tide, I don't sell Tide, especially in the 1990s. I don't sell Tide directly to the consumer. I sell it to retailers like Walmart. So Walmart is a customer of P&G. Publix is a customer of P&G, Walgreens, so on and so on. So in the 90s, what started happening is that you have some customers like Walmart that started becoming really, really big. And what some big companies like P&G realized is that you need to sell differently. You need to establish a long-term relationship with customers like Walmart. The other thing that happened here is that POS technology, so the barcodes on the products, and the POS, that's point of sale systems, when they scan, that's when all these things started. So a lot of technology was being introduced in the 1990s as it relates to point of sale and EDI. EDI is electronic data interchange. That's the data that goes from the manufacturer to the retailer based on this POS system that tells them how much inventory and what they need. So all of this, basically, what happened was that all the retailers needed to basically agree on a uniform barcode. That's why it's called UPCs, Uniform Product Code. Okay, so it's so a lot of changes started happening. The supply chain changes started happening, and the other thing that started happening is that Walmart. So Walmart at the beginning, they didn't have groceries. They basically had clothing and maybe some dry products, dry consumer goods, but they did not have a grocery store. Those were called initially the super centers, and some of you may remember there were Walmart super centers and then the regular Walmarts, and then eventually they decided all the Walmarts are going to be super centers. So what happened was that the number one grocery chain in the United States was not Kroger or Safe. Those were overtaken by Walmart. Walmart became and is the number one grocery chain in the United States. So this is a big change. So all the other chains had to basically start making changes of their own to compete versus Walmart. Okay, so this is kind of the 1990s. So companies started reorganizing themselves so that you had what is called category management. So here, the category manage. Oh, I forgot to put this. So here, let me go back a second. So even before the 1990s, you had the brand management framework, which was invented by P&G also. And basically what it is okay, we need to organize each brand as if it was its own company. So basically, the brand manager and the brand assistants and all that not only manage the marketing and the advertising, but essentially product supply and all that in a way reported to the brand manager. So each brand manager was like a little general manager within the company. What happened in the 1990s is we had a new framework. So brand management didn't go away. This continued. But category management, which meant that basically the retailers were managed by categories. And basically you had a category team and a category team captain. So let's say that the category was toothpaste or oral care. Oral care, the category captain could have been Crest or Colgate. Sometimes they just took turns. And basically, the whole organization for the retailer was reached around the category. Now, the reason is because when I was brand manager, for me, the only thing I care about was growing my brand. So I was brand manager of Pantene. I didn't care about the other shampoos or hair care. Even Head and Shoulders. Head and Shoulders is another brand from P&G. My goal was to basically grow share within hair care. That's how I was being evaluated and so on. Category management is a whole different philosophy because the retailer, so put yourself in Walmart's shoes. Walmart doesn't care if Pantene sells more than Head and Shoulders or Suave. They care that the shampoo or the hair care category grows because they are competing versus Kroger, well, back then Kmart, Walgreens, and so on. So they want, when people come to Walmart, they want them to buy hair care, all of their hair products at Walmart instead of at a different retailer. So this is where the whole category management changed. And the whole category management organization changed from what it was called a bow tie. So bow tie meaning that the manufacturer basically had a salesperson for Walmart and the whole organization behind it, and Walmart had a buyer in the whole organization, and it became, it kind of flipped, became like a big rhombus. So basically, the idea was that the people from IT at Walmart talked to the people from IT at P&G, finance with finance. So basically, every department was now in communication with the manufacturer. And it got to the point where now in Bentonville, which is where Walmart is, you basically have all the biggest companies. They all have their offices there. So they're basically almost part of Walmart. And it's gone so far now that, for example, I know somebody who works for a company that is a major important supplier for Google, and they work in the Google League. So, so basically this whole thing, the relationship between the customer and the supplier became very, very tight. Okay. In the 2000s, basically what changed everything was the internet. So the internet came first, obviously. So this was actually, the internet came in the mid-90s. At the beginning, it was not very good. I mean, I still remember trying to search on the internet on Netscape or AOL, and it was really not that good. I mean, so people use the internet, but basically people were thinking, oh, the main advantage is really email. It was not until technology started, technology in terms of the internet getting faster, the internet connection getting faster, and the content getting bigger. Then the other thing that happened was social media sites started being launched. So Facebook, I still remember the first time I heard about Facebook. It was my sister's wedding, like, God, it must have been like maybe like 15 years ago. And somebody said, well, why don't we upload the pictures of the wedding to Facebook? That way everybody can see them. And if you want, you can download them. And I still remember that as today asking, what is Facebook? And it was funny because the people were using Facebook. A lot of people using Facebook were using it outside of the US before it started becoming popular in the US. But Facebook at the beginning was really, and again, most of you should remember when Facebook started, it was basically, share pictures, find friends that you haven't talked to. So for me, obviously, I graduated a long time ago. I found out that some of my friends from high school, which I thought that lived in another country, actually lived in Miami. So it was really more about, social activity, internet. But then the thing that started booming was people started building their own websites, and there was what they call the internet boom. So, Amazon being one of the pioneers, obviously, with e-commerce, but everybody started building a website in e-commerce. And they didn't really have a good infrastructure. So the thing that Amazon has that has allowed them to be so successful is the whole infrastructure, because the beauty of e-commerce is that if you order something, you get it relatively quickly. Now you can get it overnight, but back then you couldn't. Now, there was another big advantage about e-commerce that people don't remember. But when you bought through the internet, you didn't have to pay sales tax. So basically, everything you bought through the internet was cheaper than in the stores. And this was really killing most of the stores. So that's why eventually it changed. But really, I remember when I was buying on the internet, it was basically because it was cheaper. So that was the main reason. So I would say that what changed everything again was the introduction of the iPhone. Because in 2007, I believe, was the first iPhone. People all of a sudden saw, oh my God, this is like a mini computer. Now, the first iPhone So the map app of the iPhone, you can look at some of the videos from that event. The map was a Google map, and it's not a Google map like the one they use today that is a GPS. It was a Google map where you would actually see a map and then see like a dot moving. So it was not even a real GPS. But that's when Steve Jobs and the people at Apple realized that in order for the iPhone to grow tremendously, you needed to open it up so that people could build apps. So this is what I call, kind of we're in the middle of it, the interactive marketing mobile era. Okay, because also what started happening, especially with the new generations, the millennials and all that, is that people started using their phones for everything. So I mean, if you wanted to check something on email, you don't need to go to your email, you don't need to go to the computer. So that was obvious, but a website or buying, so apps were started being made for mobile. And that is still a big difference that exists today, generational difference. So you still have the younger people do everything on their phone. Some of the people that grew up with a PC are still used to doing everything in their PC. So, so this is still, we're still in this era. And the era that is coming up, or that we're starting to see, is the era of AI, artificial intelligence. And I'm not going to do that today, but I have a whole section on artificial intelligence, blockchain, and IoT, the Internet of Things. And we'll see where we can squeeze it in. If not, I'll record one of my classes, other classes that I do, so that you can look at the video. Because I think it's very important that everybody understands the basics, the fundamentals. What is AI? What can it do? What is blockchain? What it can do? I'm no expert on technology, but I now have basically learned so that all of my students know, because this is now becoming a very, very important topic. So now let's talk a little bit about the marketing framework. In the marketing framework, you have first the analytical piece, okay, which is called the 5 C's. Now, some people have expanded it to 6 C's. It started with 4 C's. But basically, the 5 C's are the customer, the context, the collaborator, company, and competition. When I went to school and it was the 4 C's, the collaborator didn't exist, okay? And today we're going to talk more in detail about this. Then you have another framework called the STP, which is segmentation, target, and positioning, okay? And then you have the 4 P's, which we're not going to talk about today. So let's talk about each of the C's. And this is actually very relevant for your, for your project. So this is very, very important, because as I start doing the project in parallel with you guys, I realize you can clearly see some marketing issues that start presenting. So first you have what is called the decision-making unit. The decision-making unit, okay, is the person who basically makes the purchasing decision. Now, that's also called, some people call it the economic buyer. So some of my students here from my entrepreneurship class will recognize this this illustration. This is from my entrepreneurship class. So you have your end user, okay? So this is the person who is using the product. You have somebody who may be the compliance officer, so is the one that allows the supplier to meet with it. So let me explain. When you have a B2B model, meaning business to business, okay, which is what we have in that project that you're doing, it becomes more complicated. There is not just one person that uses it and makes the decision. So the end user, so when you have, like these events, and I don't want to use that example because that example is not, I don't want to go into the project. But let's say, in the office, um, I'm the end user so let's say my phone is an office phone. So let's say they gave me an iPhone. Okay, so I am the end user, but I didn't make the decision to get that particular iPhone. Okay, that was probably made by what is called the economic buyer. So there is someone in the office or in the company that makes these decisions. And there may be some people that is what is called champion, okay, to influence the buy. And you have influencers, and maybe the CEO, if he doesn't agree with anybody, can veto the decision. And then you may have, somebody in the purchasing department that basically says this is out of our budget, or somebody in the accounting department says this is out of our budget, you have to get something else. So the bottom line is the decision-making unit is not necessarily the end user. When it comes to the consumer products, like what is called low involvement products, so these are things that don't require a lot of decision making, like when you go to the supermarket to buy cereal, a lot of times the end user is the decision making unit. But for example, let's say you're buying cereal for your kids, if you have kids, then the end user is not just you, and you have other people who are influencers. You're the economic buyer, you're buying the product, but you're being influenced by all of these people. Obviously, the end user and the economic buyer can be the same person, okay? So if you're buying some product for yourself, then you're both. You're the economic buyer and you're the end user. So this is very, very important, because when it comes to digital marketing or any market, you have to take into account, who are you advertising? Are you advertising to the end user, to the economic buyer? Are you trying to get the influencers? So this is a very important concept, okay? Then there is the steps in the decision-making process. So you have the DMU, then you have the DME, okay? I'm not going to go over this because this is very similar to the marketing funnel. The only thing is that if a company, again, if it's a product for business, a B2B product, then there is more, more time involved in maybe looking at different alternatives and the purchase decision and all that stuff. So what's important is that when you're doing advertising of any type, okay, you have to take into account the decision-making unit, meaning all the influencers of the person who uses the product, the person who buys the product, and the steps, okay? Because maybe the person who's making the purchase decision, again, talking about business, is not the same person that is looking at all the information and giving the alternatives. Maybe the purchase decision, or the person who writes the check, is the purchasing, let's call it office manager, right? But maybe the information that this manager is making the decision based is based on all these steps, and that person may not be the only one involved in the steps. There may be more people involved in those steps. Okay, now when we think about the second and third C, context and collaborators, okay? I'm not going to go into this framework. This framework is something that, is taught in strategy, but basically, when you decide to go into a business, you need to look at the context of the business. So the context of the business can be something as what is the competitive environment, which we'll talk about here in a second, political and legal environment, technological, economic, social, and you can add to that health, right? So obviously the pandemic, and this is something interesting that we really didn't even have it in the framework, but now this phenomenon that we never had before, or the other thing that is Well, it's kind of here, but it's not very obvious, but like climate change. So there are elements now that could affect your marketing mix, okay? So these are important to take into account before you develop your marketing mix. What the Michael Porter framework basically says is that there is some industries or some businesses where you can make, so this is profitability, return on equity or return on capital, right? So you have companies like household and personal care where the average profitability is very high, okay? And then you have airlines where the profitability, there isn't any. Most airlines are losing money. As a matter of fact, do you know which is the only airline? Well, now they all are probably losing money, but before the pandemic, the only airline that was always making money, does anybody know?
American Airlines?
No. Does anybody else want to take a guess?
Your benefits,
Southwest.
they're filling a VOB with us. And then the verification of
As you need to put yourself on mute because I can hear the background. Southwest, yes, thank you. Southwest. So Southwest almost reinvented the whole airline industry because what happened with Southwest, they started very small, very regional, but they started this whole concept where all the airplanes would fly to a hub, and then from there it would go to all the different destinations. And they basically kind of reinvented the whole industry, and they've stayed very, very profitable. And we'll take a look in a moment why is it that they're profitable, okay? But so, when you take profitability, you need to understand why is it that some industries are so profitable and some of them are really, really unprofitable, okay? So instead of, you have motor vehicles and airlines, they don't make a lot of money, and then you have pharmaceuticals, household and personal care, they make a lot of money. The reason for that is because you have all of these things going on. You have potential new entrants, so these are potential of competitors. So the easier that competitors can come in, the bigger the threat to the players already in the industry. So, maybe 20, 30 years ago, there was a lot of regulation, and it was not easy for new airlines to come in. So you basically had like 4 or 5 airlines that, dominated all that. When that regulation was taken out, then all these new airlines started popping in. So that's why you see a lot of airlines, value airlines. Every time I go to the airport, I see a new airline that I never heard of. So this is what makes the industry less profitable. The other thing is the bargaining power of the buyers. So a lot of time, the bargaining power of the buyers is the more bargaining power, the more they're going to ask for profitability. So that means, so think of the buyers again in terms of like Walmart and the big retailers buying from all the suppliers that they have, all the consumer products and all that. When Walmart comes in and talks to a small, let's say somebody who makes, I don't know, towels, bath towels, small company, they come in and they say, okay, we're willing to pay this much, and you need to produce so many. And if they say, oh, but we don't, okay, sorry, next. So they have so much power, because they're so big that they basically set the price. There is a lot of small companies that they rather be in Walmart and not make any money, because once you get distribution in Walmart, you'll grow so much that then you eventually make money. I'm just giving you an example of how powerful it is. But then to be a very powerful buyer doesn't necessarily need to be a very big buyer on its own. It could be, so let's go back to the airline industry. So buyers have a lot of bargaining power because they can switch between one airline and another very, very easily. And this is due a lot with technology. So, you can, let's say you want to go to, well, now may not be the best example because there is not that many airlines flying the way normally fly, but let's say, we're under normal circumstances. You want to fly today to New York. You basically look at your phone, you go to one of the apps, you can very quickly find the airline that you want to take and the cheapest price. And most people are not very loyal. So that means that you have a lot of power because you can change from one to the other. Okay? On the other hand, the airlines don't have a lot of power when it comes to their suppliers, meaning they don't have a lot of choices. Basically, for airplanes, you have Boeing and Airbus. So it's not like even a company as big as American Airlines can say, well, we don't want to make airplanes with either one of you. We want to make it with someone else. There is not that many suppliers. They basically have to deal with the same supplier. Threat of substitutes. The substitutes are other modes of competition. So, for example, here in the US, it's not so much, but in Europe, you have the speed trains. So, speed trains are a big substitute because all of a sudden to go from Madrid to Barcelona, you take a speed train and it's almost as quick as if you take an airplane. So basically the speed, and when I say as fast, I'm not talking about the train goes as fast. I'm talking about when you take into account that you have to go to the airport, get on the airplane, take off, the whole time from the time you leave your home to the time you arrive to your office or destination is becoming smaller and smaller. So this is an example of substitute. So the more threats, so the reds meaning high, big threat of potential new entrants, big bargaining power of the suppliers, threat of substitutes, buyers bargaining power, all that stuff, the more all of this is a high threat, the less profitable it is. Okay, so this is why the profitability is so important. So that's why P&G, for example, decided to get out of the food. So they used to have Jif, and they used to have all of these different products, Folgers and all that. They decided, look, it's not very profitable for us. There are other companies, food companies like Kraft and Nestle, that are better positioned to do that, so they decided to get out of those industries. So again, a lot of the decision making that is going on in terms of how to design your marketing mix has to do with all these outside factors. Then you have, we didn't talk about the collaborators. So the collaborators so let's go back to the iPhone example. So the collaborators of the iPhone are the app, developers. Now, what's interesting is that one of these complements can become your competitor. So Google started as the Map app for Apple, and then Google designed its own operating system, and now the iPhone's biggest competitor is all the iPhones that have the Android operating system, which is Google. So, you have to be careful because sometimes your complements can become your competitor. So those are complements. Then you have something that is called the SWOT analysis, which is where you look at your company's strengths and weaknesses and put those in terms of what are the outside opportunities and outside threats. So basically the way this model works is if you have opportunities, like, there is some of a technology that is fits very well with your strength, then you leverage your strength to take advantage of those opportunities. If you have these threats that are likely to be adverse, then you need to figure out your strengths to address these threats. Okay, so if there is changing in buyer taste, well, you need to figure out how to adapt and adapt to those different buyer tastes. So a perfect example is what's happening right now with the pandemic. You know, you basically the whole companies had to change. You know, supermarkets, if you wanted to survive, you needed to have online purchasing and delivery. So thankfully, that's one of the things about compliments is you started getting companies like Instacart, right? Or Grubhub or Uber Eats. So, you know, you didn't have to develop your own delivery system. There were companies that basically do the delivery. So this is a perfect example of a threat. Because the problem is that if you don't, if you're weak and you cannot adapt to those threats, then you will not survive. So you notice right now that the retailers that are closing are the ones that couldn't adapt. Or if you have some sort of a restaurant, which people just don't, order from home, those are the ones that are unfortunately going out of business. So again, nobody foresaw a threat like the one we have. I think I think we all know that because of what's happening right now, everything is changing. They say that technology has moved 5 years from what it was before. Because, for example, you had universities that didn't even have online teaching, or without going even to universities. Look at the high school and elementary school level. They had to change dramatically, and there was not a whole lot of time to do some sort of research and test and this and that. No, you had to change, and you change right away. So you basically, at the company level, you do what is called a SWOT analysis. And most importantly, when you look at your strengths and weaknesses, you look at what is called the value chain. So the value chain is your supply chain that goes from, your operations and outbound logistics all the way to marketing, sales, and after sales service, and your supporting processes, which is your finance, human resources, IT, procurement, and so on. So this is all very important. Now, the part that is more relevant to your assignment is that you need to understand your competitor. So a lot of companies, sometimes the big mistake that they make is they think about what they're doing and they forget about their competitor, and they don't analyze their competitor. So here you have an example of, a quick and simple competitive analysis where you look at the most important consumer needs, or attributes, which in the case of this industry, delivery is service, service fee, delivery fee, app review, city availability. By the way, this example right here is from, I forgot to put her name. It's from one of my students. So last semester, they had to choose for their project one of these companies, and I think she chose DoorDash, if I remember correctly. So basically, this is a competitive analysis where you put who is stronger at what. Now let's go back to the Southwest example, okay? So strategy is about what you want, okay, versus what you are not, or where you want to be and what you don't want to be. So this red line, okay, think of this red line as being American Airlines. This is your full service airline. This dotted line is Southwest, and then this green one is your substitute, it's the bus. Take the bus. So you're going to New York, right, from Miami, and you have, these three choices: full service airline, value airline like Southwest, or the bus. Okay, when it comes to low price, so here you have from worst to best, and here you have the most important attributes. So attribute number one, low prices. When it comes to low prices, American is going to be the worst because they don't have the best prices, and Southwest is going to be the best. By the way, this is changing. Full service airlines in order to stay competitive, are being very aggressive on pricing. But for the most part, I'm not talking about like a special that all of a sudden they have. For the most part, Southwest is, the best price compared to full service airline. Now, friendly service, if let's say you're a business traveler and you're, traveling on business class, you don't care about price because the company pays for it, but you do care about getting a good frequent service. So here, again, the rating is from 1 to 5, 5 being the best. So you have American Airlines being a 4, and Southwest, when it comes to, well, actually, this is interesting. So when it comes to friendly service, Southwest is also very good in terms of, friendly service, but they're not so good at its amenities. Okay, so friendliness, Southwest has made it. I don't know if you've ever taken a Southwest flight, but the flight attendants are known for being extremely friendly. Frequent departures. Okay, frequent departures. You have American Airlines, especially from Miami International Airport, has a lot of different frequent departures. Southwest does not. Well, Southwest is Fort Lauderdale, but just think of this as if both airlines were in the same airport. Okay, Southwest has few departures, and you have to adapt to whatever they have. On-time arrival, again, American Airlines is very hard trying to be better than others, but believe it or not, they are not as efficient because Southwest doesn't have as complex in that many routes. So Southwest is actually better in on-time arrival. Fast transport, they're the same because they're using the same airports. Convenient airports. So here's where it gets very interesting. So convenient airports, when it comes to American has flights to every city, practically every airport in the United States and the world for that matter. Southwest doesn't. So Southwest has only very few airports. You have to fly to that airport and basically change. Extensive network, the same thing. America goes everywhere, Southwest doesn't. Onboard amenities, you get I think you get a soda and cookies, and that's it. And American, especially if you're flying business, you get all sorts of amenities, and you have a business traveler lounge. So the point is that these two airlines have made choices on how to make money. Southwest is the low-cost airline, okay, and the low prices. They're focusing best basically on giving you the best price. But on the other hand, there are some attributes where they are actually even better than the full service airline. So this is exactly one of the issues with American. If you're paying more for an American airline ticket, the friendly service should be best of the best, should be best practice. So they be as friendly as Southwest. Southwest should not be better in any of these than America. So here, this is kind of, if you do your SWOT analysis, you say, okay, we cannot, and I'm American, I say I cannot charge less than Southwest because Southwest has an infrastructure that allows them to be lower cost. But I can definitely train my staff to be more friendly, or in terms of departures, we need to try to be better on the departures or on-time arrivals. So there are several things where so this is what a lot of companies try to do. So there are some things that is called operational effectiveness. There are certain things that every airline should do. Every airline should have friendly service, on-time arrival, frequent departures. So everybody can do this. Now the things that are difficult to do, like convenient airports, this is why American is more expensive than Southwest. If you need to go to, I don't know, Harrisburg, American Airlines has a flight to Harrisburg. Southwest doesn't. Southwest, you have to go to one of their hubs. I don't know, let's say it's Philadelphia, and from Philadelphia you take another flight and you go to Harrisburg. So this is kind of how competition and positioning works. And basically now we move to the next section is, okay, you need to choose which is the segment that you're going after. So here we're changing to a different example. Okay, so in path stream, in the other path stream class that I teach, the example, I like this example because this is a company that decided to do electric toothbrushes, but the electric toothbrushes were not, like the fancy Oral-B electric toothbrush. These were toothbrushes that were $5, $10. So they decided to go into the market and it's delivered to your home. So they said, okay, we're going to go to convenience where we're going to deliver it to your home. So basically the electric toothbrushes they deliver to your house, or you buy it at the store, or so this is the kind of two choices. And then you have another segmentation based on demographics, where you have people that make, again, this is to simplify, you have many different segments, but people make less than 50, or households that make less than 59,000, more than 59,000. Same thing with those at retail. So you have someone like Oral-B. Oral-B is here. You can get it delivered at home, but most of the Oral-B, so Oral-B is owned by P&G. So and they basically most of their toothbrushes are sold in places like Walmart or Best Buy and so on. You can also buy it on Amazon, okay? Because we'll talk about that in a, not today, but we'll talk about that later, how companies are changing what is called omni-channel, which is you're basically available everywhere. But this particular company is a small company, and they decided, that they're only going to be delivery business, and they have their own website, and people go to their website. So this is basically how do you segment the market, and there are many ways that you can segment the market. This is the one that is most logical for this particular company, because they said, okay, the big segments are the ones that are delivered at home and the ones that people buy at a retail store and are not delivered at home. And then you have, different income. They are an expensive toothbrush, and they decided to go after people who are who are on a budget and don't want to spend $60 or $70 on an electric toothbrush. Okay, so this is called a segmentation tree. There are many ways to do the segmentation tree. The easy way is if you do it based on demographics. So then we have our target. Now, this is something that has changed a lot since I started marketing. This thing, persona, didn't exist before. Persona exists because in the past we used to do our target was basically demographic. So in this case, it would be, so this person, Sweet Pea persona, okay, this is your budget conscious target consumer. So you have the persona, budget conscious Beth, nurse at a hospital, demographics. You already know what the persona is, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because you have the personas for your project. Now, here is something that is very important that, sorry, I had to take a sip of water. You can have many different personas, okay? So just because in your project, they gave you two personas because those are the two most likely type of people that can buy your product, but don't take it literally. So for example, here the persona shows, a young woman. Well, it could be a young man. I mean, this is for toothbrushes, so it has nothing to do with gender. But then the important thing from a social media and digital marketing standpoint are this type of behavior, hobbies and interests, interaction with digital media, type of common objections. So demographics is becoming less and less important when it comes to marketing. So think of, for example, Starbucks. Starbucks doesn't care too much about the demographics anymore. It's more about the Starbucks experience. So they are looking more at these types of things in terms of marketing than age group or socioeconomic, or if you're single, or again, what's happening is technology. So mobile technology. You have my mother is 81 years old, and she has she has an iPhone, and she can go to Starbucks, and they know how to order from their app. So again, this is becoming less and less important. This is becoming more and more important. How they interact with digital media, what are their hobbies and interests. So this type of thing, because the good thing about digital media is that you target in many different locations. So the last concept is positioning. Okay, so where do you position your brand compared to others? We talked a little bit about this in terms of Southwest. So positioning can be based on many different things, category, consumer needs, competitor base, benefits, price, attribute, prestige. The most common one is benefits and price. Okay, because typically in most markets you have the very high price niche players, and then you have kind of the low price, low. So you usually have high price and low price, but then you have other types of benefits. Okay, so one benefit could be, okay, mass produced versus customized. So these are, again, very, very high end, expensive, and so on. And then you have in the other extreme, I would actually put it in the extreme here, IKEA. So IKEA is, you go to IKEA, and I think most of you have been to IKEA, and you're not going to get somebody, helping you to choose, or no, it's a do it yourself. You look it up, then you go directly to the warehouse, pick it up yourself, and assemble it. And this is something that appeals to a lot of people, but may not appeal at all to some of the people who go to places like these, who want, when they arrive, to be treated like royalty. So basically, so this is why Michael Porter, who is considered the father of strategy, says a strategy, when somebody says, we want to be the best car company, well, that's not a strategy, because the best for one car may be very different for another target. If I'm looking for an electric vehicle, for me the best may be Tesla. But then for somebody who wants pickup trucks, or who likes pickup trucks and needs a pickup truck, says, well, for me the best vehicle is a Ford 150 or whatever. And for somebody that needs an SUV, may say, well, for me the best SUV is a whatever, a Toyota SUV or a Ford SUV. Explorer, that was the name. I forget. So the best is not a good strategy, because it depends on your target group. For different target groups, the best means other thing. If you're on a budget, and especially students and all that, you say, look, for me the best is IKEA. They have the styles that I like. I can assemble it myself, and I don't need to pay a lot of money here. They sell you all this fancy stuff, but it's outrageous amount of price, and I have absolutely no interest in any of these. Okay, and then you have Walmart, which I wouldn't put Walmart and IKEA in the same place, because IKEA, when it comes to furniture, they have zillions of things. Walmart, when it comes to furniture, this better. I mean, they don't have a lot of availability of furniture. When it comes to price, yes, okay, they compete on price, and they are both mass produced. So let's say that this over here was, instead of mass produced and customized, would be assortment. Assortment means, availability of all different types of furniture products. Then IKEA, and let's say this is low and this is high, so a lot of availability. So IKEA would be kind of over here, right? And Walmart would be over here. Now here you would have competing with IKEA, the big furniture stores, like, I don't know, like Rooms to Go. Rooms to Go is more expensive because they have a salesperson and they have full service. You don't buy from Rooms to Go. I don't know if you can, but for the most part, at least when I've been there, they don't sell you stuff that you assemble yourself. That's something that, and you could probably take the product yourself, but 90% of the time, if you're buying a living room set, they deliver it to your home. So basically positioning means is how are you going to compete? How are you going to position yourself versus your competitors? And that's when it's very important to go back to this, okay? Where once you choose where are you going to compete, then you need to look, okay, looking at, so this all goes one versus the other. Says, okay, looking at my persona, which is, this is my ideal target. What would the persona choose? Me, let's say I'm DoorDash or Uber Eats. You want it to be you, and if it's not you, then you need to figure out in your kind of strengths and weaknesses, going back to your strengths and weaknesses, the things that you need to do so that that is not a weakness anymore, okay? So for example, right now, the company that is the pizza company that I believe is doing the best is Domino's, okay? But it's not so much because Domino's has necessarily the best pizza. It's because the most important need is, delivery on time, or delivery fee, or even the price of delivery. And Domino's, what they have done is what Domino's has as a strength, which is much better than anybody else. They are the best in the industry, is the technology. So their app and all that, they've been developing. That Domino's spends more in technology than they spend on pizza. So the technology, so that's their strength, allows them to take advantage of many opportunities. So Domino's, what they saw is they said, okay, we have our technology, we can sell many more things other than pizza. And that's one of the things that they did, is they decided to offer many more products. So they did this even before the pandemic. But I'm just telling you things that because of the technology they can do. Now, if you are, let's say, and I don't want to compare versus Papa John's because they're also very big in technology now. But let's say you're one of the local, really good pizza places, right? Well, you have a disadvantage because even though you have a really good product, the most important need right now is, the delivery and technology and touchless and this and that. The good news is that now you have companies like Grubhub and all that. The problem is, so this is a big problem, is that these companies right here, they charge a lot of money. Okay, these are not cheap. They charge, and when I say a lot of money, they charge the restaurant. They charge them a big percentage. And imagine if you were a restaurant that was making a low margin because you sell everyday regular food, then you cannot afford to do this because then you lose money. So this is a big problem. Again, it's all about understanding. So I'm basically showing you how all of these things work in real time. So you have your pandemic going on. So this is your context going on, outside factor. All of a sudden, it made every business, even the smallest business, look at, okay, I need to now figure out with this big threat, which is not even a threat anymore, it's a reality, what am I going to do in terms of my strengths and weaknesses, and how am I going to address those? So if my weakness is that I cannot deliver, okay, I need to talk to somebody like Grubhub or so on. If Instacart, for example, Instacart is becoming very interesting. So Instacart, they started with Publix and the big chains. Now they're doing 7-Eleven and some of the smaller chains. So even for smaller stores, now they can take advantage of this. So this is, companies had to adapt in real time and do this type of thing without even realizing they're doing this type of analysis. And your marketing will basically drive this analysis. Because let's say you're a small restaurant, right? And you're offering delivery, okay? And you need to communicate that to your customers. So you can do that in several ways. You can advertise. Obviously, you advertise in the carrier, which would be someone like Grubhub or DoorDash. But then you can also advertise it on Google. So, obviously, we haven't talked about this, but whenever a business, so sorry, so every business has a Google business account. So this is basically when you look. So when I have my gas station, for example, when you look at Google for any business, you basically can find. Hold on a second. Let me show you what I mean. You're gonna write gas station. So this over here, you don't pay for this. This is organic. It tells you where the gas station is, okay? And when you click on this gas station, by the way, you saw that it said the price already, 205 regular. You can go directly to the gas station information. So this is called the Google store. And basically all this information, you put it in. So this particular owner, because even though Shell is owned by a franchisee, an operator, which is what I was, and all this information is managed by them. And all of this is free. There is no need to pay Google for that. So, again, Google wants, and you post all of your pictures. Now you can do a Google ad, or you can advertise on Yelp or whatever. But the point is that all this information here, you do it for free. Why am I putting this? Is let's say this gas station, would deliver to your home. If you want beer, they deliver to your home. Then obviously you can put it here. So this is advertisement. Okay. This is interesting. This is new. I haven't seen this before. It tells you right now that it's a little busy. This is online. So let's look at, let's see. I'm looking for a 7-Eleven. Oh, I don't see 7. Well, but let's say there was a 7-Eleven near here. 7-Eleven, they deliver. Right? Oh, we can put 7-Eleven right here. So if I remember correctly, they now, you see, delivery. Even before I opened the website. This one says delivery, this one doesn't say delivery. So my point is that, and they didn't do delivery before, I believe before the pandemic. So this is interesting. So you open here and there is an ad, okay, for Instacart delivery. So in this information that you have here, I never use the ad for my business, but you can also do advertisement, because here what you do is you click over here, right? It will tell you, it probably sends you to the Instacart page, and it tells you, I was just checking on that, and it tells you all the things that you can buy from 7-Eleven. The reason why I'm opening this is not so much because I'm interested in 7-Eleven, it's because, okay, you see, so you have all the information for 7-Eleven, but what I wanted to see was Instacart is expanding very, very quickly, because they know that once things go back to whatever the new normal is going to be, then a lot of people will start going to the stores, especially the older population. It doesn't. You need to go to the main. So this is Instacart, but it's showing only 7-Eleven. Let me just go to. By the way, when I click here, Instacart pays. When I click here, they don't pay. So I'm not gonna make them pay if it's not necessary. You see, so 7-Eleven is one of the new stores. But you see now you have Aldi's, Target. So this is very interesting. So for example, my mother, I taught her to use Instacart. She's much better now in Instacart than me because I don't want her obviously to go to the store. And she had never purchased from Aldi's. So now she's purchasing from Aldi's. So this is interesting because technology is allowing her to, to purchase from places that that she didn't even know. You have Costco. So what I'm talking about, you see the smaller chains like My Lamps, Sabor Tropical. I don't even know what this is. Green Wise. Total Wine, ABC. The Vitamin Shop. And then you have Petco. So bottom line, what I'm saying is that now a lot of these companies that didn't deliver found a way to deliver through Instacart. And then obviously all of the restaurants, use one of them with the available services. Yeah, when I went, now I remember what I wanted to show you. Okay, so when you go to these stores, I'm going to click Publix, for example. Wow, this is very slow. So one of the things that we're going to talk about next week after we go back to the 4 Ps is the bulk of consumer products marketing goes into what is called merchandising. Merchandising is all the stuff that you do at the stores. So it includes things like coupons and, like when you go to the supermarket, there is the displays of products that are on sale. So Publix has a section that are all the BOGOs, the buy one, get one free. And then you have what is called the end caps. The end caps is at the end of each aisle, and there is end cap, a display that basically has all the products that are on sale that day. But what's happening now is that all of these companies have to advertise and do the merchandising online. And what's happening that is very, very, so this is a great example. So look at this product. This is, you go to the snack aisle. If you go to the snack aisle, it's full of Tostitos and Doritos and all these snacks that you're aware, and they basically occupy tons of the shelf space. Why? Because they are the dominant leader. And no matter how much money you pay, you cannot, if let's say this is a new potato chip, there is no way you can remove them. You can buy an end cap. It's very difficult because usually Frito-Lay has all the end caps. But now there is a new opportunity. So with the coupons, I just find it very surprising that these snacks here, okay, that I've never heard of, all of a sudden pop up first, because these are like privileged to the market leaders. So this is very common. So for toothpaste, you will usually find Crest or Colgate, right? But you wouldn't find, a little toothpaste that nobody has ever heard of. Now, this may be owned by Frito-Lay. Oh, this is the other thing. So these are all now electronic coupons. Now, Publix has a very strange way of doing things. You can attach it to your app, but nobody uses the Publix app. Okay, I just want to see. It doesn't say. I don't know. I suspect that this snack may be a new snack from one of the big companies. So you see, it's interesting. You can now online, you can look at all the information about the product and determine if you want to buy it or not. But my point from a marketing standpoint is that now with digital marketing, there are opportunities for small. So this is what you would expect to see, right? This is the big brands, Waffles, Roll Gold, Tostitos. So, there is an opportunity for new products and for new companies to advertise where they, in the past, would have no chance, because in the store, you have huge shelf space that is already assigned to the big players. So look at this. These are all very, very big common brands, okay? So these are called supermarket features. Supermarket features means that you pay the supermarket. It could be as part of the percentage of your sales promotion budget. Basically, what that gets you is a display, that gets you in the flyer, okay, and that gets you a reduced price. And these are negotiated, several months in advance. But now what you have is with the category manager. So Minute Maid is Coca-Cola, and Tropicana is Pepsi, and you have Florida Natural and all that. So you have all of these. There's a category manager for orange juice, and basically they have meetings and they decide what the calendar is going to be for promoting orange juice throughout the whole year. So that's why when you buy orange juice, almost every time you go, there is a different brand on sale, or every month. They may change monthly or weekly or whatever. So this is how planning is done in terms of category management. Okay, so I didn't want today. I'm not going to talk about this. This is what we're going to talk about tomorrow. This is what's most important. I'm not going to spend a lot of time in product, price, and place. I'm going to spend most of the time in promotions. And what I'm going to do is, let's go back to our syllabus. So my intent is that on Mondays, we talk about the past stream, right? So on Monday, we talked about keywords. Our next is going to be search ads. Okay, well, on the 11th, we don't have class. But if we had class, like the following week, Monday is past stream, Wednesday is the market. And what we're going to do is the stuff that we're going to focus on is the stuff in terms of digital marketing that are not related to what you're doing here. So right now we're focused on display, search, and display advertising. We're going to look at all the other types of digital marketing. So we're going to look at social media advertising, direct mail advertising, how to advertise, also the CRM. We're going to spend also a good amount of time on Google Analytics. So the idea is that when you finish this course, you will know not only the most important, you will know as much as possible as search and display advertising, because this is what the course is mainly about. But then you will know the fundamentals of everything else, marketing and digital marketing in general. So we'll talk a little bit about MailChimp, how you do that. We'll talk about Facebook and Instagram, and how advertising is done in those type of social media and so on. So that way, if you decide that you want to take other marketing course, you already know have an idea of what you're going to cover in that. And if you don't, well, you have now not only knowledge on doing search and display advertising, but you also have somewhat of an idea or an understanding of how other type of digital media is done. Okay, so now I notice there is more people that when we started the class, so let me mention something that I mentioned at the beginning of the class. Okay, so I want you to take a look at the names here. If your name is here, that means that you are successfully logged in to PathStream. If your name is not here, then that's worrisome, because that means that you haven't logged into PathStream, and by now you should have finished quiz number 1, and you should already be on your way to finishing your assignment. Your assignment for section 3. So this is due tonight. This was due on Monday, but I said on Monday that because some people had technical issues, that I'm not gonna penalize for this being late. So if you submit today everything, then you're fine. But if you haven't logged in, and you're having troubles logged in, I already gave you 2 options on how to get technical support. You can use the chat. Now I assume if you cannot log in, then you cannot use the chat. If you cannot use the chat, then you send an email to help@pathstream.com. And you should also send an email to me. Let me know, say, look, professor, I'm having problems logging in. I already put a message to PathStream. They are going to be helping me tomorrow. That way, I know that you're having a technical issue. If you're having a technical issue, then you may be excused for being late with your assignment. I'm talking about right now because right now is the beginning. And the last but not least, you all should have gotten an email that there is a new announcement that has a video that I did, which has a short explanation on how to do your quizzes and assignments, for PathStream. Because last time, or when we did this on Monday, I forgot to log in as a student, and that's why I was having trouble showing you how to do this. So here I took my time and put it here. All right, so we're almost at the end of the class. We're actually going to finish early today. Does anybody have any questions? If something specific about your situation that you want to discuss with the rest of us, you can stay. I'll stay an extra 5 minutes. If not, then you can go, and see you next Monday. Good luck with your assignments. If somebody's staying after class to talk to me, can you raise your hand? That way I know who I'm waiting for. Don't use the chat. Who is this? Nicolas Caliente. Okay, Nicolas, can you use your microphone? You said
Yes,
that you
hello?
okay, so let's see. Let me well, but if you go to your first assignment and all that, you should be all right. Let's see if this. Oh, there you are. Here you are. You see? Right.
I just wanted to make sure.
Good. Fleming, you want to stay? Well, you know, if you have sometimes trouble, Fleming, can you hear me? Here, you're here. Oh, she left already, okay. Okay, if nobody else needs me, then I'm gonna log off. Okay, I heard something. Yes?
I sent an email for my attendance for today.
Okay, when it comes to the attendance, the system does it automatically, so I don't need to. Okay, but you're one of the people logged in. So the system automatically, if you were like more than 10 minutes late, then it will put you as late. If you were within those 10 minutes, it'll just put you as present. Okay, so you don't need to worry about attendance.
Thank you.
Mhm.